session, we will tackle about assess selected community action initiatives. So, what is community action initiative? The Community Action Initiative was created to support community-led projects that helps the community to go for a change and build its character. Citizens take a leading role in providing public services and goods. Community Action Initiative have been acclaimed for their innovativeness, problem-solving capacity, and legitimacy. So, ang Community Action Initiative daw ay sinusuportahan ang mga proyektong pinamumunuan rin mismo ng mga mamamayan para tulungan ang community. Nangunguna ang mga mamamayan sa pagbibigay ng mga pampublikong serbisyo at kalakal. Ang community action initiatives ay kinikilala para sa kanilang pagiging makabago, kakayahan sa paglutas ng problema at pagiging lehitimo. It also aims for a social, environmental, and sometimes political change that will help its stakeholders to grow and have an ease in living their lives. Also, the tools in engaging the community should help in planning for the community's achievable goals, reachable vision, and passionate mission for the society. Next, these are the differences between short-term and long-term projects under Community Action Initiative by Tara Dugan. Generally speaking, short-term projects takes a few hours, days, or weeks to complete, while long-term projects take months or even years to finish. Typically, companies require more documentation and infrastructure for long-term efforts. Decisions about project governance usually depend on budget, resources required, business impact, and the scope of the project. Effective project managers start by assessing the project need and determining how much time is needed to meet the desired outcomes. Sinasabi dito na sa paggawa ng short-term project, tumatagal ito ng ilang oras, araw o linggo para matapos, habang ang long-term project naman ay tumatagal ng ilang buwan o kahit ilang taon. Next, these are the characteristics of short and long-term community action initiative. First is the budget. Short-term projects typically require less money to complete than long-term efforts. An exception might occur for a short-term disaster recovery effort or other unplanned event that requires immediate, all-out attention. Because short-term projects typically cost less, they usually require fewer approvals to get started and completed. Next are the resources. The number of resources required for a short-term project typically depends on the type of product or service being developed. Short-term projects usually require specialized expertise. For example, you might institute a short-term project to analyze a recurring product problem and devise a solution. Large, complicated development projects typically require numerous resources over the course of the project life cycle to initiate, plan, execute, control, and close the project. The third one is impact. Short-term projects typically have a limited impact. You may initiate a project to handle a specific problem or react to a situation. Once the problem is solved, the project team disbands. Longer-term projects tend to have a larger impact on the business, community, or employees. For example, you might institute a long-term project to analyze complex problems and make sweeping changes that affect your entire company. Project team members typically commit to working on the project for the duration of the effort. This ensures consistency and continuity. The last one is the scope. Long-term projects tend to be complex. Project plans describe multiple objectives, business needs, and interdependent requirements. Long-term projects may be divided into smaller projects to make them more manageable and to produce more immediate results. Short-term projects typically focus in a single goal, evaluating Short-term projects requires less effort and analysis than larger projects. Your company may require a formal scope statement for projects that last more than a month. Establishing this type of governance ensures that the number of features and requirements of the project is documented early on to prevent miscommunication, misunderstandings, and cost overruns later. So these are the examples of short-term community action initiatives: feeding program and social amelioration program. And these are the examples of long-term community action initiative, which are the disaster readiness campaign and anti-drugs campaign. These are the different assessing tools that will help you, which are the interview and the survey. First is the interview. Interviews are one-on-one conversations between a facilitator, which is the interviewer, and a community stakeholder, which is the respondent. Interviews allow you to gain a deeper understanding of the respondents' ideas and feelings. The advantages of using interviews includes the following. They allow the facilitator to follow the flow of conversation and ask spontaneous questions. They encourage the respondent to speak freely and give spontaneous answers. They are the most accurate and true a way to obtain qualitative data from your respondents. They are effective with literate populations. Challenges with interviews may include: first, they are time-consuming. Second, they reach only one respondent at a time. Third, conducting a good interview requires practice and some degree of skill. And lastly, finding willing respondents for impromptu interviews can be difficult, but it's better to schedule phone interviews in advance. The next one is the survey. Surveys are popular method of collecting information and opinions. In the context of a community assessment, a survey can reveal the community's perceived strengths, assets, weaknesses, and needs. Surveys can be general or targeted to specific groups. Try to reach as many people as you can, focusing on key stakeholders in the community. You can administer surveys through email, by phone, or in person. These are the advantages to using surveys includes the following. They can be administered remotely, they can be repeated, they can be completed anonymously, encouraging candid responses. And lastly, they are generally inexpensive to administer. These are the challenges with surveys may include the following. First, identifying prospective respondents and obtaining their personal contact information can be difficult. Second, emailed surveys are ineffective in places where internet access is limited. Third, phone surveys may be subject to sample or interviewer bias. Fourth, response rates for remote surveys are generally low compared with in-person assessments. Fifth, written surveys are ineffective with illiterate populations. And lastly, written surveys don't allow for follow-up questions. So these are the topic you have for today. That's all.